In 2008, a figure using the name Satoshi Nakamoto published a short technical paper that would later be called revolutionary, the Bitcoin White Paper. At its core, the paper addressed a problem that had troubled economists and computer scientists for decades: the double spending problem. In plain terms, the problem is this: how do you create money that can move freely between people without a central authority, while ensuring that no one can copy it, counterfeit it, or spend it twice? Bitcoin's solution relied on cryptography, computation, and distributed consensus. The world called it a technological breakthrough. We called it blockchain. But here's the question history rarely asks. What if this problem had already been solved? Not with computers, but with biology, metallurgy, and social mathematics. 500 years before Bitcoin, West African societies operated decentralized monetary systems across millions of square kilometers, without central banks, vaults, or written ledgers. They did not solve the problem digitally. They solved it physically and socially. And today, we are going to examine how. Part 1. What money actually is. Before discussing shells or metals, we must clarify something fundamental. Money is not defined by what it is made of. Money is a system of accounting, a way to record value, ownership, and exchange. Every monetary system must solve three constraints: scarcity, supply must be limited; verification, authenticity must be easy to confirm; trust, users must believe others will accept it. Modern systems solve these constraints with institutions, laws, and databases. West African systems solve them with natural constraints. Part 2. The cowrie shell. Proof of distance. The cowrie shell, specifically Cyprea moneta, was not chosen arbitrarily. It possessed a rare combination of properties that made it ideal as currency. First, biological specificity. Marine biologists identify cowries by shell curvature, aperture teeth count, and nacre pattern. These features are species-specific and cannot be convincingly replicated without industrial tooling. Before the 19th century, there was no method to mass-produce convincing artificial cowries. A shell was either authentic or it was not. Second, instant verification. Unlike gold dust, which requires weighing, or coins that can be shaved or alloyed, cowries could be authenticated visually. No scales, no chemical tests, no authority. Verification was decentralized. But the most important feature was geographic. Cowries are not native to West Africa. They originate primarily in the Indian Ocean, especially around the Maldives. Every cowrie in African markets had traveled thousands of kilometers by ship, caravan, and trade relay. That journey required labor, coordination, and time. This created what we can call proof of distance. Just as Bitcoin derives value from the energy required to mine it, cowries derived value from the logistical effort required to transport them. Inflation was constrained by geography. You could not simply mint more shells. Scarcity was enforced by physics. Part 3. Inflation control. Without law. This system remained stable for centuries, not because of regulation, but because of friction. Transportation limited supply growth. Trade volume expanded slowly. Value adjusted organically. This is a critical point for modern audiences. Inflation control does not require central banks. It requires constraints aligned with reality. Cowries provided exactly that. Part 4. The manila. Metallurgy. As verification. For larger transactions, West African economies relied on the manila. Manilas were open-ended copper alloy bracelets, but they were not jewelry. They were standardized stores of value. Modern archaeological analysis, including X-ray fluorescence testing, shows that commonly used manilas, such as the Okboho type, were produced within narrow weight and purity ranges. This indicates intentional standardization. Verification was embedded in physics. When struck against metal, High-purity copper produces a clear resonant tone. When adulterated with lead or other heavy metals, resonance collapses. This is due to density-driven vibration damping, a well-understood principle in material science. This is where the phrase "sound money" originates, not metaphorically, but literally. Historical trade records from Portuguese merchants in the late 15th and early 16th centuries show prices denominated in manillas, including documented inflation over time. At one point, price controls were imposed by local authorities. This tells us something crucial. Prices were tracked. Markets responded to supply and demand. Monetary policy existed. Without paper. Part 5. Isusu. Finance. Without interest, money alone does not create an economy. Credit does. Across West Africa, credit was organized through systems known as Isusu, Ajo, or Susu. In modern terms, this is a rotational liquidity mechanism. Participants contribute equal amounts at fixed intervals. At each interval, one member receives the entire pool to invest. Over time, everyone receives the same total contribution. What changes is timing. This system redistributes liquidity, not wealth. No interest is charged. No central authority extracts fees. Default is prevented through social staking, reputation, trust, and continued market access. Anthropologist Ron Eglash observed that this economic structure mirrors African settlement patterns: fractal, self-similar, and scalable. This is decentralized finance enforced by survival incentives, not algorithms. Part 6. The Industrial Shock. A monetary attack. The system did not fail internally. It was disrupted externally. In the 19th century, European industrialization enabled mass metal production. Factories in Birmingham began producing manillas at industrial scale, hundreds of tons per year. But they ignored local standards. Alloys were diluted. Weights varied. Verification mechanisms were overwhelmed by volume. In modern economic terms, this was an exogenous supply shock. When one actor controls production, scarcity collapses. Savings lose value. Trust erodes. The ledger was compromised. Part 7. Operation Manila. The Forced Reset. By the mid-20th century, colonial administrations moved to eliminate indigenous currencies entirely. In 1948, manillas were declared illegal. A deadline was imposed. Exchange rates were fixed unilaterally. Millions of manillas, representing dowries, land value, and generational savings, were redeemed at a fraction of their historical worth. Over 32 million were collected and melted down. In modern terms, this was a forced monetary reset. The old ledger was erased. The new system absorbed the value. Part 8. Why crypto adoption in Africa makes sense. Today, African countries rank among the highest in peer-to-peer cryptocurrency usage. This is often framed as speculation or desperation. But history suggests continuity. Decentralized money is not foreign to Africa. Centralized banking is. When developers in Lagos or Nairobi bypass slow international settlement systems using peer-to-peer value transfer, they are not adopting novelty. They are returning to a familiar logic. The technology changed. The architecture did not. Conclusion. The lesson. The cowrie and the manila were not primitive money. They were engineered systems. Whether money is made of shells, metal, or cryptographic keys, the rule remains the same. If you do not control issuance, you do not control value. Africa does not need to catch up to decentralized finance. It helped invent it. This is Genius of Africa. Subscribe if you want history explained with evidence, not assumptions.